Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and to another quick art tip. This will be the second in my quick art tips. So in the first one, and of course everything will be linked in the description box, and I'll put a little card in the upper right hand corner. In the first quick art tips, it was about making your own stencil mask so that you can create some fun patterns by simply making your own designs for borders, for greeting cards, whatever it is you'd like to use it for. And that was for kind of a zigzag chevron shape. And in this one, I'm going to go into dots and circles and a scale pattern and kind of an oval pattern. And again, this is making your own stencils. And some of these you need a couple of special tools, which is just hole punches, really. But I want to start by showing you how to do it with just a ruler, pencil, and scissors, and that's all. So let's go ahead and start there. Okay, so if you are so inclined, say you don't have any kind of a circle punch. Circle punches are, of course, really nice. They're really great to have, and I'm going to show you how to use those. But say you don't. So what I did here, and these are just some offcuts, what I did here was I just, I did it this way. I just used this glue stick and I drew a line on the edge of this paper. It was a half inch. This is a half inch away from the edge. And all I did was use this glue stick and just bring it up to the line. Whoops. You got to press down pretty firmly and then just draw a pencil line around and line up the next one and do a pencil line and so on. So this makes this makes a 1-inch arc. And then here is a little cap from one of my little spray bottles. And you could do the same thing. So this time I'm going to go with just, well, let's see, this is a little more than 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to go with 3/8. So you can just measure what it is you're using as your that's all you have to do. You just need to do that and start wherever you want. Hold it down firmly. And of course you can space them apart as close or as far apart as you need. And for these kinds of hand-drawn circles, smaller scissors work better than great big scissors. Not everybody has a good steady hand for cutting out arcs, and I understand that. But for the longest time, I didn't have any circle punches. So for me, it was doing things like I'm just showing you. And also there's that handmade factor that if it's just a little bit wonky, that's okay. It's okay. There's a charm in handmade things. But you can do this. So I'm very much of a can-do kind of person. So there are some simple arcs that you can make with whatever you want to use as your template. And basically, yeah, I used an actual circle punch to create this, but you can get this same idea. These are close together, space them farther apart. I'm going to show you how I do this. But to start, I did want you to know you can do it with just your basic, whatever shape you have. You can do it with the base of a bottle of paint. Yeah, whatever you have. So that's that part. This is the do-it-yourself from scratch without any other tools. Okay, for next, I have a circle punch pattern. Now you can do it with these kinds of standard punches. This is the most standard punch. This is the same size as binder paper and things like that. I found all of these at thrift stores at different times. This one's large, this is standard, and this one is small. I also have a set of punches. So I treated myself to these after selling a journal. I'm able to buy a few more supplies once in a while. But you could do this same pattern with any one of these punches. In this particular case, you can just take a strip of cardstock. This is just 1/4 of a normal A2 letter size, United States size letter. And one of the things I use with these kinds of punches is I'll use the side of the punch is one way of gauging where the next hole is going to go. Otherwise, you can also draw lines, of course, so that they're closer together. Now, if you're using, say, this big punch, it's not as wide, of course, as this one as far as the from side to side, so we'll get a different result. But you could also, this one has a deeper area, so this could actually be very nice. See if I can line it up so that it's visually next to the side of the punch. And what's nice about having the holes further away from the edge is it gives you, it's much easier to do your stenciling if it's a little further away. And before I go any further, I do want to mention this is just regular cardstock. It's not super heavy weight, but it's a very nice weight. What I've been doing with the stencils that I'm making, which I talk about more in the chevrons video, which was the first one, I coat it with acrylic medium or Mod Podge. So Mod Podge is right here on the desk, and so if I give it a nice coating of Mod Podge, there's more durability to the paper. You can use acrylic paint with it, because once this is completely sealed, including your edges, with some kind of acrylic medium, you can use wet media with it as well as dry. If it's just the dry paper, you're better off sticking with just ink or pens or that sort of thing. So for example, I'm just going to go ahead and use this one, and I'm going to use just some walnut stain. We're going to come back to these guys because I did a different pattern with them. And either this design or this design. So we'll do this one. And this one. So with this one, I did just a row like this. I used this particular template, mask, stencil, and I just went halfway between for the second row, and it all depends on how close you get. So if I go halfway across the circles and in between, I get a closer design. Need to get a little more ink on there so you can see what I'm doing. Let me darken those up a little bit. There. So I just going halfway between in both directions. Same thing here. There they are. I can go, well, see, there's an advantage to having it close to the edge. It's easy for me to line it up. These are so far away from the edge, they disappear. So there is something I hadn't tried yet, but let's say we want to do something fun like that. I'm just seeing a little bit of that previous row. So you can get some fun effects that way. So there are advantages for it to be close to the edge and advantages for it to be a little farther away. Because again, if I want to, I can create a line like that, and it would be useful to draw a line so that I know where I'm sliding this down. But I just have to line up one of the circles and line it up again, and I can get a nice line of circles. In this case, to get that pattern, I used this stencil that I made with this hole punch. So it's just a little bitty one. And I lined them up, inked them all, lined it up halfway onto the circles and halfway in between, inked it again, and went back the same as before. So there you go. That's how easy that one is. Now, I had fun with these punches. So next is this pattern, which I made with these hole punches. And this came out really cool because, as you can see, there's more depth here, less depth, and even less depth here. I didn't even have to work at this. I did work on a separate piece of paper to figure it out. But it worked out so perfectly when I was fooling around on a scrap paper, as I found out this is 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches apart. So if I set this up, now I'm going to rotate this so that I see the accurate measurements, and I'm going to go at a little bit of a distance so it's easier. So this is 8.5 inches. So I'm just going to find the middle, which is 4 1/4, and just slide it over so it's on 4 so I don't have to think. It makes it easier if I don't have to think. And then just create little marks which I can erase when I'm all done. And I know that the big circle I want 2 inches apart, because then I knew, and this was on my little scrap piece of paper that I was working on. I found out that I could create this fun design. Now you might not have all 3 of these hole punches, but it would be really, really cool if you even if you just have this one punch, you could go in as far as it goes and then draw yourself a guideline so that you could just do it with one punch by just drawing yourself some lines. But once you have your template, you can line it up as far away as you want. And in this case, I don't want it too far away, because the big hole is 1 1/4 inches, and I don't want it that far away. I'd rather have these little holes close in. So I'm going to just make a 1/4 inch mark and draw a line. All can be erased. And then I can line this up from top to bottom. I'm going to rotate it again so I get it right. And line up. I can see, you probably can't see, but my line is showing through these little holes. So I can go halfway on those little holes. And so there it is. But that's just something for you to play with, even if you just have only one hole punch. I also picked up at a thrift store this hole punch, which is a heart shape. So that would be even more options for you. So keep an eye out for this sort of thing. And even if you just have one, experiment and see what you can come up with. So there's that idea. Real quick, I want to show you another option in case you're a bullet journaler. That's a mouthful. You can create your own bullets. So just a little extra thing. And I want to show you how you make these. Okay, so now for these, you have an option. This is a corner punch that I have had for ages, and it was all I had for a long time. So that's a good one. And then this, I think, was with this one. No, actually it wasn't with this one. Haha. It was with, I did get myself a three-way. This is, I did that with the 10 millimeter. So, didn't use this. That comes later, okay? I got to keep my things straight. I just did this a couple days ago. Goodness. So anyway, it comes in 3 different sizes. I did splurge and get myself some extra punches, and it's been a lot of fun to have some more punches. So I go through this really detailed in the chevrons video. So what I have here is you can measure, and in this case, these are 3/4 inch folds. You can see the folds, and I've already Mod Podged this one. Okay, so 3/4 inch folds. You could measure and hand fold. I'm going to save a few minutes of time here. I'm going to go ahead and do it with a scoreboard. So let me see what I did here just to start. I started with a 1/2 inch and then I went 3/4 inches. I'm going to double check again. Yes. I started with a 1/2 inch and this was through trial and error. And I definitely had some errors, but that's part of it, is figuring out what is going to work. So let's line that up. And then I just have a 1/2 inch left. That's why I started with a 1/2 inch. Okay, so now that I have these folds, and this is the same as what I did to create the chevrons. I'm going to do it with both tools. So if all you've got is just one tool, if you've got a smaller one, this is considered a large. It has an L on it. See, this is a large. So you just keep folding it over. And so on. Or, in this case, I used the large 10 millimeter corner. Same thing, just fold it over. And 3/4 inch works great for these large corners. Okay, and that's how I got these. Okay, with this particular stencil mask, which, by the way, stencil and mask and even template kind of mean the same thing, because all 3 of them, their purpose is to hide, cover what's underneath so that it does not receive the ink or the paint, that sort of thing. Templates are usually used for repeat patterns because, like, you can use a pen around the edges. Let's do that one in a minute. First, let me do it this way. So we're using this, it's masking the paper underneath, and it's also a stencil because a stencil hides what's underneath. So there is a super simple, quick edge to a page. And that was part of a big part of the purpose that I decided I was going to play with this and make these, because I was looking for ways to kind of quickly decorate the edges of journal pages without needing to sew something on, glue something on, that kind of addition, but still make the page just feel a little more special. And when I get done inking all of these different pages, it's going to add an extra element of fun to the journals that I make. So here's this kind of an edge. And you can, of course, let me slide that over. Let me go ahead and do that with this one. Now what I did with the chevrons was kind of similar. I'm focusing most of my brushing into the valley here, a little less over the top because I don't want to obscure the design. So I'm just focusing on inking mainly in the valley, that point going down, and not doing very heavy up towards the top. And to get that last little bit, I just have to slide it over. So we're getting some of that pattern. I'll do it one more time. That's fun. So this template creates kind of that fish scale design going that way. Now, if you want that pattern going the other way, it's much easier if you have it going this way. Okay? And then in that case, what you want to use are circle punches. And of course, there's always a lot of sizes to work with. For this one, I have down large ticket punch. Again, this is the folds, just like we were doing here. So for this one, this was one of my other treats, was I used a large ticket punch, which does a reverse design. So, but it's the same thing. We just keep taking off the corner, and you wind up with this scallop shape. I think this was on the other side. Yeah. So this is with this ticket punch that does the reverse. Look at, if you alternate, you could have something kind of interesting if you alternate between these two punches. I haven't done that yet, but that could be fun. Have fun with punches. My goodness, there's so many different ways you can do it. So this particular scallop I did using the ticket punch. The way I made this one was by punching holes with this punch. And you can see that I measured an inch apart and drew lines so that when I aligned this, the line was showing, and it was easy for me to punch the holes and just keep moving on down the line so that I would wind up with this array. You could do it with a larger punch, you could do it with any size you have to get the size that you would like. And then it was just, you ink a row and then you move it over. So I'll go ahead and do that. It's so easy. Let's see. Oh yeah, it needs to go this way, and I can line it up on one edge, and I have these lines still on it, so I can go halfway and then just move it over. I'm doing it in a hurry, so I'm not getting a really strong dark. So you just take your time. So now I've got the first row. If you have just that, that's fun all by itself. For the second row, I'm overlapping a little bit, and I'm using the edge of the paper. Let's get some clean paper there. So I'm using the edge of the paper to show up on the bottom of my punched circles. and just lining it up all the way across. So I'm just exposing a little bit of the other already inked parts. And in this case, I'm focusing the ink, in this case, at the top of the circle. So that's where I get that. And again, I can line it up with the top of the circle down below. Imagine if you were doing this with different colors. How fun would that be? That's how I got these effects using these two different stencils. And they were so easy to make. So this is just about everything with the examples of what I created with these. And spend a little time with your inking so that you get a darker impression. Also, this ink pad could be need a refill too. But try the different colors, and I do recommend you go see the rest of the, if you haven't seen it before, see the quick art tips for the chevrons. And I'll put that at the end of the video so that you can go right to it if you haven't seen it. Anyway, there's just so much you can do with punches, or even if you don't have any punches, you can still make some fun designs. It just takes a little bit longer, a little careful cutting, but there's so much that you can do just by using found objects, like this little cap could make perfectly nice little circles. So I hope this gave you some fun ideas, and just work with the measurements, try things out on some scrap paper, see what you come up with, because we all have different tools. And I went a long time without having hardly any punches or corner rounders or any of those things. And so it's just, there's so much you can do with or without all the cool tools. This was really neat. I'm going to be able to keep these. I'm going to Mod Podge the rest of these and keep them right here in my little stencil drawer. I can do a lot with it. And because you can use them after you have coated them with some Mod Podge right here, as soon as you've coated them and everything, be sure to get the edges, all the edges. It's going to hold up really well. So far for me, so good. And then you can use them in your art journals. You can use them in mixed media art. You can Anyway, have some fun. I hope this was inspiring. And if you've made it this far, thanks for staying with me. Hope to see you next time. Bye bye for now.